All right, we've got Alisha Lindsey, a good friend of mine, on the podcast today. I can't even believe we haven't done a podcast before. We should have done one years ago, but here we are, and everybody gets to hear from you and your fascinating story. So we're going to do rapid fire here real quick. Alisha,
Okay.
How long have you been in the profession?
In the profession or with this company?
Profession.
Okay, so I know I'm Italian.
I hear
so
this
I
all
woke
the
up.
time, like, okay, well, I
Okay.
really started, but this is
Yeah,
when.
okay. So I kind of started when I was 19, but I
Wow.
didn't know that it was network marketing because I was recruited by a Mary Kay rep. And I did so terribly that I ended up selling my kit back and getting blackballed for like life. But I didn't know for years. So when people were like, "Oh, how long were you a network marketer?" And then I found out later on, oh, Mary Kay is actually what. So technically,
Well, when did
longer.
you really start? That's your fake
Okay,
start.
so I would say I really started when I want to say it was like 2014, maybe, and it was like Christmas Day. It was either 2014, no, it was 15 because my son was born. So I had to think about that for a minute. But and I wasn't pregnant. So he was not quite a year old, and it was 2015, and it was with a travel company.
Wow.
Uh, it's the only, honestly, if people would have come to me with what I do now, and if they would have tried to show me where I was at that point, what I do now, I would have said no, because I wasn't passionate about what I do now. I was passionate about travel. What I needed to realize was you need the other things so that you can actually afford to do that.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's interesting to see what our misconceptions, perceptions of different things are before we start, and then we get involved and things change and adjust. How long did it take you to become a six-figure earner?
So that was when I first started with the company I'm in now. We moved from literally, I'm going to be, is it all right if I'm like real, like, and not just sugarcoat things
Yeah,
and
we
everything?
prefer a real deep dive, give
Okay.
people what it takes.
So I had been searching because my husband was working all the time. He was gone. He made a very substantial income as a corporate executive traveling all over the country. And I got tired of that. I was kind of like a single stay-at-home mom, the best way to do it, because he was gone all the time. So I didn't know anybody. I kind of got depressed. I mean, I didn't know what my purpose was. I love my babies. They are so precious to me, but like in terms of my calling, I knew there was something missing and I just didn't know what that was. And so I prayed about it and asked the Lord, give me something. So it started with one day we were going to go and look at Christmas lights. This gal who had just moved in at the top of our church and was attending church there. Literally, they had like a little apartment upstairs. She ended up getting put in the car with me to go look at Christmas lights. And I didn't actually want her in my car because I wanted this other girl I wanted to be friends with. I'm just going to be totally real. But God had better plans. And I ended up falling in love with the girl that they put in the car with me. And she shared her business opportunity and shared on Christmas Day, her dad and mom came to visit and they pitched me the business. And I was like, shut up and take my money. I'm in. And so we did that for a while. And I got very excited about the idea of travel. I went on one vacation in almost 9 months of doing that. And I made like $300. I wasn't very coachable though. I thought I knew better. I didn't want to do things the way they taught me. I was very obstinate about that. And then I asked the Lord, like, is this really what I'm supposed to do? And in walks Catherine and Jeff Belleville, which you know well as well. And one of my friends introduced me to them at a coffee, actually his wife, Catherine. And I just remember, like I said, I was still praying. I really, really just I wanted to bring my husband home. That was my goal, right? And we got tired of like hearing my kids cry and stuff. It sucked, right? And he got tired of being away all the time, but he made such a big income. Even if he moved to another company, he would still have the same issue because his whole job was to travel a massive territory overseeing like senior housing. So, and then he was finishing up his degree on top of that. So we really didn't have much time together. It was when my husband's mother passed from cancer that we really were like, okay, done messing around with this 9 to 5, going to a boss for vacation bull honky. So we just kind of started again, like praying and saying, Lord, is this really what you want me to do? And I believe he used that because I had no network. So that created my network out of nothing. And then Mr. and Mrs. Belleville, like I said, I met Mrs. Belleville at coffee. She showed me what she was doing. I showed her what I was doing. And then she says, you know what? We're going to go meet our husbands. We're going to have my husband and your husband, because we found out we live pretty close together. We're going to come over tomorrow. I'm going to show you yours. You're going to show me, you're going to show me yours. I'm going to show you mine, but we're going to go first. And I'm like, oh, okay. My husband, her husband, cross-armed, didn't want to do it. No, I don't want to go do that. But I think 10 minutes into the presentation, my husband's like, I could see us doing this. Let's do this. So we did. And we ended up getting right under the 4th rank of the company under 3 months.
Wow.
So, but that was because we were coachable. That was because the Bellevilles led us with strong leadership, and we were coachable, and we followed what they told us to do. And right before we were about to hit the 4th position, Mr. and Mrs. Belleville come over to our house and tell us that they had made another decision and that they had moved to the company we're all a part of now. So we moved from that company and followed them, because I sure as heck was not going to get left behind from my leadership and all of those who had helped me create the success I had created, and get left behind. There was just no way. So we moved, and I just remember it being my worst nightmare, because I was a part of a business group that networked, and they were all like hardcore, like masonry people, and they did real estate, mortgages, insurance. And here's this little network marketer coming for the 3rd time to change her position. They blackballed me the first time. This was like, oh no, they are going to stake me to the cross when they find this out. But I did it anyway, because I actually had someone the day right before this happened prophesy a word over us that said, the Lord is taking you through a door. And like out of nowhere, I didn't talk to this person. They didn't know, but I literally was praying. And I'm like, God, I have to hear from you. Like, I need to know what we're doing. Is what we're doing the right thing? And literally he said, he comes up to me, he goes, and like, he looks at me, he waves, and he goes, and like, you could see that moment where the Holy Spirit just gave him a download. And he's like, okay, I just got a crazy download. There's no way he could have heard me or anything. I was in my car by myself, like just went to the parking lot, talking to the Lord the whole way. I park, I get out, and he literally says, the Lord says he's taking you through a door, and you need to trust him. And you just need to, whatever it is he's going to lay before you, you just need to trust him and take that leap of faith. And I'm like, okay, whatever that is. So when this showed up, I was like, okay. So there was confirmation that the Lord talked to my husband while he was in Salt Lake City at a job thing they were doing. It was for his job. Every quarter they would bring them all together. They would all do a meeting, and the Lord audibly told him. And I mean, we all get like impressions from the Lord, but like he like spoke like so much so my husband was like wigged out. He got up out of his meeting, and he's like, honey, the Lord says he has something for us in Salt Lake City. And we had lived in Ogden at one point. And according to the CEO of our company, one of the founders, he's like, oh, so you lived in the armpit of Utah. That was his words. I was like, I guess so. That was our experience. That's all we had really experienced. And I didn't really want to go back. And so this is a big ask, like, do you trust me? Like, for real, for real. So my husband's like, well, how would you feel about that? I go, well, what Jesus wants, Jesus gets. So if we're going to do that, I'm going to say yes, whatever it is. So much so I called a real estate agent. I called a loan officer. I was planning on either selling or renting to figure out what was the best. My husband comes home from this meeting. Catherine and Jeff Belleville are waiting in the parking lot of our house. They follow him in. We sit down, and they tell us all about the company. They give us, I'm just going to be totally frank, the worst presentation I'd ever seen them do in my life. And they are very good at presenting, but you could tell they were just so.
It was new. They didn't know.
It was new, and they were freaked out about their decision. They had just flushed their whole like 6 years of earnings residual income that they had made down the toilet. So they were like, we just made a big choice and we're about to ask you to trust us to make the same choice. And I mean, not that we really had anything going on. I mean, I think we had 4 people starting out. That was it.
Wow.
We didn't have some big team brought over.
Which is even harder. I mean, you'd finally hit high rank, finally had success and tasted it. You felt like you'd arrived, and now you got to start all over.
But, I was just, okay, so it was that prophetic word the day before. Then Catherine and Jeff Belleville say, oh, and by the way, the corporate office is in Salt Lake City. And we're like, oh, okay, Lord, I'm listening. And then the last confirmation, because the Lord says he'll confirm his word through the prophets 2 or 3 times. So the last confirmation was when I was sitting there, I was literally, a quote hit my head, and it was, I think, from Richard Branson. And it said, if you see a great opportunity and you don't understand all of the, basically you don't understand all the details, say yes and figure out the details later. As I'm thinking this, my husband literally says, I just saw a quote earlier this week that says, if you see a great opportunity and you don't understand all the details, say yes, figure out the details later. I'm like, all right, Lord, yes. Okay. So we did it. We hit the first rank, which was the Jeep rank, in the first 24 hours. And then we have 2 positions. We're allowed to have 2 in our company. And in the second position, we hit the same rank 2 weeks later on our other one, but then I think it was the second position on our first position.
Wow.
So there was a lot of excitement, but you know what? We started out with the wealth side of things, and a lot of people, I think we can all agree with the way the economy's at where they're at right now, that there's a need for that. And obviously for wellness, and the 2 biggest major things that people go to New Year's resolutions for is health and their financial well-being. So if you're able to educate people, not just give them more money, because if we don't change habits around that, nothing changes. But changing habit around money and the way we do things, and also changing, what we do and educate on our wellness. So yeah, that was our big thing. And it took us 1 year. We literally kept saying, we're going to get my husband to walk away from the corporate world in 1 year. And we just kept speaking it out and putting the work ethic, obviously, because you can speak all you want, but unless you put the action behind it, it's just faith without actions is dead.
What does that look like? I mean, when we talk about work ethic, and sometimes, people talk about they want a six-figure income, but they put out, a 4-figure work ethic. And obviously it just doesn't work out. It's got to match. And so, and then there's other people that work, but they're not effective with their time, and they're never going to get anywhere because they think they're working, but all they're doing is plugging into trainings and not taking action.
They're doing the 80% busy work and not the 20%.
Yeah. So when you say like work ethic, let's say someone says, let's just say 6-figure earner. So, and I know there's different things like momentum that can happen in different companies and teams, but let's just say standard. What does that look like for someone that wants to understand it, or maybe they feel like they understand it, but they want to understand your insights to better teach their teams? What does a 6-figure income look like? And we're not talking once you're there, we're talking to get there.
Okay. So we did in-person builds when we first started. We were the crazy people. We didn't do the digital stuff. And then obviously we had to shift gears. I mean, we were already kind of a hybrid. We were doing some of the online presence, but we did a lot of in-person stuff. And I'm sure some people are like, that sounds like, nails on a chalkboard to some people. But to be truthful, especially because we have some high impact products, we wanted to demonstrate those and have people to be able to try it, and have something happen right there. And that you see the light bulbs go on to people. So what that looks like for me is I was a part of business networking groups. So I went and I represented that's where I kind of cut my teeth in really starting to grow my leadership skills. So I started focusing on what was important. And obviously what's important is connecting with people, being supportive, and creating authentic relationship. So many people, I mean, yes, you can be a spammy pammy, and I've seen some people do it. I think people are kind of spammy pammied out. That's just my take. And I have still seen people be effective doing the spammy pammy. For me, not so much. Like, I like authentic relationships. So I started out with a handful of people who I knew. And from there, I would go then present for the people who were my people. So like, I would go talk to, let's say, Bob, right? Bob has his own network of people. And I'd say, Bob, who do you know who needs, who may be overworked and underpaid, who may have needs some tools for his wellness kit, like needs in his toolbox. Maybe there's a lot of things that Bob is dealing with in his health and he wants to improve on it. Who are some people that we can just put and usually within 24 to 72 hours, we would put 3 meetings on the book for Bob. So we would look at Bob's, we might do an online one because some of Bob's people might be out of state. We would do an in-person one for a couple people like mom, dad, sister, brother, sons, daughters, depending on grandparents, neighbors, and we just do a grand opening. Like, hey, I have an exciting announcement. Come over, hear about it. We'd make it fun. We do some giveaways and let people try.
Basically, most of it, rather than a set hourly, of course, there's hours that needs to be put in, but your main emphasis was on anything and everything for talking to brand new people about the business, whether it was your circle of influence of warm, whether it was networking to meet new people, whether it's social media to meet new people, whether it's your people that join your business and getting them launched properly. You made, from a work ethic standpoint, your emphasis to reach 6 figures on how do I get in front of more people? Would that be right?
Yes, absolutely. The more people, your network, I once, when we were at, I think you were there at the breakfast at the Power 5 breakfast, huh? When we were there launching the Power 5 as ambassadors for Mr. John C. Maxwell, I remember him saying at that breakfast, your network is your network, right? Everything we know rises and falls on leadership, but he said, this is why you guys are all in the room, because my network is my net worth, and so is yours. I want to show people what can be added in value through what I offer through your network, and your network is your network. And that is so true. When I first started in the industry, I didn't know anybody. We'd moved to a whole new area, a new territory. We'd moved for my husband's job. And for all of those who still have one, I commend you, because you know what? You got to do what you need to do to put food on the table and build your empire on the side. That's the way I look at it. And that's what we did for a full year. Sometimes what a work ethic looked like was me finding babysitters and trusting people with my kids when I trusted no one. That was a really big one for me. And I had to work quick to figure that out. Sometimes that looked like when my husband was home, I am doing his papers. Sometimes that looked like me going and staying out till 1 or 2 in the morning, driving from one side of Oregon and all the way back up from Bend in the middle of the night, like doing a presentation. And I did like 2 or 3 of them out there back to back. And that sounds insane, but you know what? It got me where it got me. And I'm not going to tell you that I was absolutely sure it would get me there, because there were times where I cried in the closet and I'm like, give up, wave the white flag, right? I think we've all
been there. I think one of the hardest parts about network marketing is this. Think about this. If you want to become a doctor, that's really hard.
Right.
So you're going to spend 10 years, 12 years on schooling, lots of debt, but you have some sense of certainty.
Yes.
And in network marketing, you don't have that cushion. In your mind, there is no exact, like you're going to go to school for 6 years, you're going to make X amount.
Right.
So you have the extremes of what's possible is much more income and time.
Oh yeah.
But also in your mind, you have these self-doubts of what's also possible is I could put in all this time and be made fun of, not make any money, and this thing not work out at all. And so the risk feels higher. I don't think it is if you actually put in the right time, but it feels higher. But the reward is also much higher. And so it really messes with your emotions. We become drama kings and queens, as I always say, in this business. And so, the last question I have, because we talked about this right before this podcast when we were just going through some different ideas and thoughts, is you mentioned the words thick skin and the importance that that has for one to have success. People need to have really thick skin. And in some ways I felt like I had it because obviously I survived. But in other ways, geez, I just felt like I had really sensitive skin that, luckily I just kept going back at it. But it was like everything offended me. I never said it out loud. I felt everyone was misjudging me. I felt embarrassed. I didn't even post on social media my first 5 years, even when I had done tremendously well, about anything that pertained to any success I'd had, because I was just really worried about being judged. So tell me what you mean and maybe how someone can help better develop thick skin.
So I think that it's honestly sticking. First off, you've got to have like a vision. You have to have a very strong vision. And I love actually when you say, you've got to trade your likes for loves. It's a sacrifice, right? So you have to have a very clear vision of the things you love and what you're willing to sacrifice to get those things. And the clearer you are about that, the harder it is to waver you from your past or your path, when those things come to bite you in the butt, because they will. You're going to get people that you've known for years. Sometimes it's your parents, sometimes it's your mom, your sister, your brother, your best friend, church people that you love. You'll get complete strangers who say things. As a matter of fact, I have found sometimes that the biggest cheerleaders are my online support team of people who I never met that are all the way across the world. And sometimes it takes a standing ovation of complete strangers before the people that you love most are the ones who start cheering for you too. So keeping a thick skin, one thing is that you surround yourself with people who are wanting to support you in your dream, like genuinely get your little nucleus. My friend actually uses that term. Like, I like that. You need your little nucleus of people, your 5 people that that no matter what, they're going to be your cheerleaders. And sometimes that's your mentors and your team, and surrounding yourself with other people who think and see what you do. If you have that, when you have moments of weakness and you have those moments where you want to throw in the towel, because you have them, I assure you that people think that the trajectory to the top looks like this, and it looks, sometimes like crazy pants, silly string being sprayed across your life, right? It doesn't look like a neat thing. So keeping focus, getting your people that that you can turn to keep your mindset fresh and you dialed into what you want. And then also reading materials. So what you are what you consume. That goes for food, that goes for spiritually, what you watch on TV. I don't watch the news. I don't. I'm going to just say it. They're all liars. It's all bad
tough.
news.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to that crap. And honestly, if it's really important,
yeah.
I once had someone tell me the story of how they didn't listen to the news. And I was like, yeah, I had given it up years ago just because I didn't like the way I felt after I watched it. I'm like, I don't want to live in this constant state of fear. So, they told me that they were out on a yacht in the middle of the ocean. And I think it was back in 2009 when Britney Spears went crazy for a minute and shaved her head. And there was another boat that pulled up next to them and was like, did you hear about Britney? In the middle of the ocean, tells them all about this. He's like, believe me when I tell you, if it is big enough, you will hear about it. No matter where the heck you are, because there will always be someone who does watch it. And so I was like, yeah, I'd rather not do
No, I like how
So-
you talked about the power of environment, because, who you surround yourself with, both online and offline, makes such a difference for helping you to develop that thick skin. Because you're going to have, I know for me, I can do different things that are active, and it can start out as a blister and then it turns into a callus and really, really tough skin in that exact same spot. But, it took me going through the blister, right? And getting weaker in order to make it stronger than it ever was before. And so for all of you, it's just part of the process. For me, I started just looking at it like, sometimes people have good intent and they're trying to protect you. Other times they are jealous and they don't have good intent. But either way, for me, I'm not going to let anybody take away that dream or vision. And I'm just going to focus on just doing what I can do and loving where I can love and releasing where I can release as we go. Well, Alicia, where's the best place for people to follow you on social media? Is it just I don't even know, because I just follow you everywhere. Is it Alisha Lindsey on both Facebook and Instagram and anywhere else?
So okay. So I'm on Facebook. I'm maxed out on my friends right now. People keep saying you should do
A
I
cleanse
guess
or
one of
something.
those public figure things. I'm like, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of pretentious. So maybe that's just me. I don't know. I'm super weird like that. Because I'm just going to be totally real. If anyone does follow me, I speak my mind, and I started a hashtag truth jailbird, because I get thrown in jail, Facebook jail. I've been hard time, Facebook jail. So I'm on Gab because I didn't want Instagram to control, because they are owned by Facebook. I didn't want two places where they could kind of tell me what to do. So I'm on Truth Social, I'm on Gab, and I'm on Telegram. I love Telegram. I get a lot of information on Telegram. So my hashtag is #diaries of a woo girl, capital WOO, meaning winning others over.
Wow.
So,
I like that. I like that. That really stands out. And, making sure that if you're starting right now, it's fine. Start out in one place, you're not overwhelmed, but then eventually you want to be able to be on multiple platforms, because you just never know what can happen, as well as different people learn and focus on different platforms. And so you can expand your audience. And that's why for me, I started out with just Facebook, and then it was Facebook and Instagram, and then Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Pinterest and podcasts and on and on and on. But well, I appreciate you, friend. It was great catching up with you. It was great having you on the podcast and hearing your voice, because we have so many different styles and personalities, and the way people made it and what they went through, and different doubts and different fears, even though they're all pretty similar that we all go through, even though it's a different variation or version of that. So Alicia, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you as always. I know my listeners appreciate you, and I know they're going to take some of these things and implement them into their lives and into their business.
thank you for having me on. I appreciate you. It was a lot of fun.